with Easter approaching, I thought it might be a nice idea to make a little Easter bag. Now, in this little one here that I've made, I've actually got Easter eggs and an Easter bunny, but you could, if you wanted, put hot cross buns in, or something, a nice fluffy toy if it was for a smaller child who can't have chocolate yet. If you wanted it for somebody else, you could pop anything in to do with Easter. And afterwards, you've got a nice little bag with several little pockets in for bits and pieces, and you could put an egg on the front like I've done, or you could put even just a heart or a rabbit, anything you like on the front. It's easy to make, and I'm going to show you how to do it today. Hi there, my name's Elizabeth and I like to sew smart. And for today's project, I'm going to show you what you will need for the Easter bag. First of all, you will need 2 pieces of fabric for the main body of the bag, about 20.5 by 12.5. You will need 2 pieces of lightweight wadding, half of that size, to go in between each piece. You'll need 2 more pieces for your pocket sections. They're actually double. You'll need that, and then you will need 2 4-inch strips of fabric, 4 inches by around 30 inches, which you're going to fold in and make your handles from. You will also, I think a good idea, you don't have to do this, this is optional, but I put a piece of base card in the bottom of the bag and I make a little slip cover for it because it gives it a really hard base surface and gives it a lot more strength and shape to your bag. And I'll show you how to do that in the finish. To make your handles, the first thing you need to do is to take your 4-inch strip, you press it actually in half, and then you fold the outer edges to the center where your crease is and over again, and it makes roughly a 1-inch strip for your handles. You take that to your machine and you're going to stitch 1/8 of an inch down both sides to give it nice strength. You don't need any wadding, it's plenty strong enough. So I'm now going to take both of mine and stitch down the sides of my handles first. You have a 1/8 of an inch marker on your bobbin shield, but I just noticed that that lines up with the inside of my open toe foot. So I just butt my fabric right up to the inside there and stitch. I've got my handles down, stitched nicely down the sides, waiting to one side. Now you will need to do this on both pieces of your main body fabric. I'm going to show you on one, but you will need to repeat it on both pieces. So you've got your body fabric right side down on your table, and place halfway down, place the piece of lightweight wadding. It helps if you run a crease across it. I'll turn it over. So there's my crease. This is the main body of the bag. I'm going to fold the pocket fabric in half and place that equally at the bottom. That becomes the pocket section, and this top piece becomes the lining that will tuck in. So that's the next step. Put that down, pin it nicely together, make sure that you have your wadding halfway down, and then repeat for the other side, and then I'll show you the next step. Now I am going to draw a line 3.5 inches in from the outside edge right to the top here, which is about 10.25 inches you'll find from there to the base. But before I'm going to do that, because ironing it will take the line off, I'm just going to fold and finger press that in half, because if you're going to put applique on, which I'm actually not with this bag, but I did with the other one, you will need to center your applique 1.5 inches from the top approximately, and if you're going to put something on, put it on there, but you'll only need to sew your applique through these 2 pieces here. Don't sew them through the whole, all of the layers, because you'll close up your pocket. You won't be able to get the hand in the pocket. So I'm drawing a line 3.5 inches from the outside edge with a friction pen that will iron off, and I'm going to draw it right about 10.25 to the top, and I'll repeat it on this side too. So 3.5. It's a little bit off, so make sure you've got your edges lined up as far as possible. 3.5. 3.5. And it's 10.25 right to the bottom. So now all you have to do, which I've done on this piece here, is line up your handles, the straps for your bag. The outside edge, the line must be the outside edge of your handle to make it even. I've pinned it on, making sure that there's no twist at the top. And all I'm going to do now is go through all layers, and I'm going to stitch on the handles on this line. If you can pan in a little bit, on this line 1/8 of an inch, I'm going to repeat over that stitch line right up to the 10.25 piece, stitch across the top and down the other side. Repeat on this handle, stitch all the way up, across the top and down. So you'll only have one stitch line showing, you just stitch over the top of it. My handles are nicely stitched on now, and I haven't pinned that down yet. Got my pocket nicely on the front there. All what remains to do now is to pin the top right sides together to the bottom. And what you need to do is make sure when you pin that your handle pieces line up. So you pin that in, pin it down so that the handles line up. And also on the side here, make sure before you pin that these two pocket pieces also line up, like so. Pull them up, they'll come up from the bottom, and that's because you need this to line up on the side of your bag where the pocket goes. You need that to line up. So pin it all the way around. This now becomes the lining. You have got the handles inside, so be very careful not to stitch your handles in. Stitch it all the way up the top, but leave about 5 to 6 inches a gap at the top there and there, because that's how you're going to turn your bag inside out. I've stitched all the way around my bag, left the gap at the top. I've turned it the right way out, so you can now see that lining up the straps at the bottom has made a difference. They're nice and neat. But now how do you get the square corner? I'm going to turn it inside out again, and then I'll show you how to measure and a quick line of stitching that will give you a nice square bottom. To get a squared corner, I've actually trimmed off my lightweight wadding to the stitch seam, not right on it, but close enough to it. So that's my square bag that I've stitched. Now I need to bring it and line up both at the bottom seam. I can separate the bottom seam, open it up a bit, there you go, and then open up this seam on the top here. You see that? So I'm pressing them open. Match them underneath as far as you can. So if you pop a pin in through there, it should come out just in the middle of the seam there. And I'll secure that with the pin. That leaves you a triangle shape. Now if you put it on your board, you'll see you can put it on a square. You're going to come 2 inches in, and it's going to be 4 inches across to make your box. So start at the top, it's 2 inches. I'm going to take my friction pen, mark it with the line there, mark it with the line there, and just put my ruler on it to hold it down and draw a line right across. You see that? And I'm going to do that, stitch across that line. Really, I might even double stitch it, stitch forward and back, beginning and end, because you need that strength in the corner. And then I'm going to cut that off at 1/4 inch from the line of stitching. I'm going to do it on all four corners, the two corners of the bottom bag and the two corners of the lining. This is now the bottom of my bag. I've done both corners, so I've just cut that off at 1/4 inch as I told you. Now the other two corners of course will be the lining, which you had at square. Now you're going to do exactly the same thing. Finger press the seam open, put the pin in through until you pick up the open seam on the other side. I can get my fingers in there. So all you'll do is, again, exactly the same as you did the other corners. Oops, it's not right. There you go. So we'll pin that, measure that 2 inches down, 4 inches wide, just the same, because when it's tucked in, it has to fit in the same space. I've pushed the lining down into the inside, and I've also stitched the little gap for turning that I left. I've stitched that closed. Now you could just leave your bag like that, but this is a piece of baseboard that I showed you earlier. Now this piece I've cut to fit right in the bottom of the bag. Now because it looks a bit ugly, I've made a little tiny slip cover just using a scrap piece of fabric, and I will slip that in there and then pop that in the bottom of the bag, press it nicely down, and you can see how much nicer that looks with a pattern in the bottom rather than just a piece of card. So that's your bag finished. If you wanted to, you could top stitch around the top. I personally like it left, but you could do that. And then you have this nice little handy bag. You can pop the sides in, you can nip the side if you wanted to make a smaller bag. The interesting thing is these little pockets will take scissors, it will take your cutter, it will take a lot of things, it would take pencils, anything. So you could make them for Christmas, for Easter, for a birthday, anything at all. And then you've got your finished little bag. This bag was specifically made as an Easter bag, but when you go to my Etsy shop, you will see that also, beside the pattern for this one with the correct sizes you need and all the details of everything you need, there is also a larger handy bag, which is made for any occasion really. So do have a look at that pattern and all the patterns I have for sale in the Etsy shop. And if you've enjoyed this video, then give us a thumbs up and subscribe, and feel free to leave any comments in the comment section. We like to hear from you, and I'll see you again soon with another project.